Hey there, hi there, ho there. Good morning, good morning, good morning for all you early birds. This is Carlos Canejo Lean Six Sigma, Master Black Belt, welcoming you to today's digital webinar on digital QMS. So, welcome, welcome, welcome. And with us today, we've got Chris Budd. Welcome, Chris. Thank you for joining us today.
Hey, Carlos, thanks for having us. Appreciate it. And hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today.
So we'll be ready to start in about, we're counting down here, about 3 minutes. So get your last cup of coffee, your last bio break, and come on back. And as they said in the 70s, get ready to get in, sit down, strap in, and then fly through this baby and learn some new skills on how to automate your QMS. So be with you in about 3 minutes, folks. Chris, while the folks are getting their last cup of coffee and so forth, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself,
Sure.
where you're at? You married, single. If you're single, the ladies want to know. And any hobbies that you have, and
Great.
what's the weather like where you're at?
Perfect. Yeah. Well, Carlos, based out of the Toronto area in Ontario, Canada, it's warmer than usual this winter, which is nice. So not a lot of snow at the moment, but
Well,
uh,
what does warm mean to you guys over there? I mean,
well,
50
yeah,
degrees is cold for us. For you guys, it's shirt sleeve weather, right?
right. Well, 10 degrees Celsius today, which puts us in around what,
For,
60 or so
uh-huh.
Fahrenheit, I believe. I don't know. I don't know
Okay.
the
I think
translation.
it's more like 42. If it's 10, it's like 10 above 32, right? I mean,
Could be.
I don't know. I'm the silly American, right?
No, well, I don't know. What's freezing point? Freezing point is what,
It's 32. Yeah.
32, yeah.
Yeah.
It's it's not super above freezing point. Freezing point in Celsius is 0. So we're
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's a nice anyways, it's nice and sunny today. It's great. Not a lot of snow. Um not I am married, so I'm sorry for those who are want to be quality management expert. No, I've got a couple of kids. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
life's good. A little bit about myself and how I got into this gig and into this world. Started off as a internal quality consultant slash specialist at a very large automotive company called Magna International, and
Oh, yeah.
worked for them for several years. Been shipped around like a toolkit that I was, I guess, helping fix the ISO and TS programs at various factories. And from there, went back to school, achieved an MBA at the University of Toronto, Rotman School of Management.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
It's a great
Started
school.
Yeah, it's a good school. Yeah, it's met a lot of friends, and it was very social, so it was fun. And started my consulting practice, CJB Consulting Limited. From there, we focused on GMP and ISO deployments for companies, helping them get certified, implement the systems that they needed to be compliant with. And I got to a certain point where we felt software might have been more of a could be the future of the industry and the service. And so we developed our software Isolocity, and we have launched in 2016. And here we are. We're across 20 or so different countries, clients in different industries, and doing fairly well.
Oh, that's excellent. That's excellent. You're coming up on your critical 10-year mark.
We are.
Startups have their critical 1-year mark, right? And 90% of startups fail the first year. And then the next milestone is the critical second, third, fourth, and fifth. Now you make it past the fifth, you're doing something well,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And you
Oh,
start getting closer to the 10, then you got some critical mass behind you. So you're coming up on that critical 10-year. And then the 10-year, look, the good news for you is after that, then the increments go up by 5. So you're 15-year, you're 20-year, you're 25, and so forth. So congratulations, Chris.
thanks, Carlos. And I guess for people tuning in who have not met you, maybe some of our audience have come in, and maybe mind introducing yourself a little bit, and then what brought you here to become a Six Sigma specialist.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. Yes. So I got my training as a product manager for Blue Cross of California. I come from managed healthcare. I spent almost 20 years with 3 different companies, Blue Cross of California, where I managed a $3 billion division. We were a $46 billion holding company at the time. and I managed the $3 billion division. I had 44 regional sales managers that supported 55,000 independent agents in the state of California, and we were marketing Medicare supplements to seniors over the age of 65. So one day, my senior VP introduced me to these two ladies and a gentleman from Deloitte and Touche, and they started showing me these funny looking maps. Well, what's that? That's a value stream map. What? Well, it's part of Lean. What? It's Six Sigma. What? Six Sigma, right?
Yeah, right.
Medical? No, six, like the number. Oh, okay. So I got to cut my teeth, through Deloitte and Touche, and then went to Pacific Care. Spent 3 years on the HMO side, and over there was a gentleman, PhD by the name of Serge Lashutka, who got me really interested in organizational development, and he was our organizational development consultant. And so then I saw that you could marry the two. So when I got out of healthcare in 1997, I started this company under a different brand, and it evolved in 2020 to Lean Six Sigma Specialists. And so that's what we've been focusing on, improving operational performance
Excellent.
for organizations. And so given that, we were 2 minutes into it, and welcome to those that are joining us here. Just a little bit of background on either one of us. So I'm Carlos Canejo, Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt, and welcome to today's Digital QMS webinar. With us today, we have Chris Budd from Isolocity. So welcome again, Chris.
Thanks, Carlos. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. So again, a little bit of background on who we are. We are Lean Six Sigma specialists, and we've been around since 1997. And our approach is holistic. So we not only offer Lean Six Sigma methodologies, but organizational development, intelligence quotient. We are partners with Isolocity. We're also partners with Predictive Index. So we can help you optimize your talent, make sure you have the right people in the right seats, and make sure that your teams are getting along and that you don't have any blind spots in your organization as it relates to teams. All right. So number one factor that really causes an organization to fail, and then you can bring that down to a project level. Number one factor that affects that is poor team dynamics. So it's really important that you have a well-balanced team and that people understand their roles and responsibilities, and have a formal hierarchy. Right there, you see a couple of teams. The top team happens to be Orly Cosmetics, where I conducted a Kaizen event, which is a focused 1 week event. We pull all those people off of work. All right. So you have to be able to take the hit for the week and be able to manage people's time, because this is heavy lifting, folks. Change does not happen. Well, we want to change, but we can't afford our people's off the work. Well, then it's not going to work for you. You see? So you have to commit to allow the folks for at least 1 week. And in one place, the Wilbur Curtis Coffee Maker Company, 1 year, they wanted massive change. So we had a Kaizen event, one a week. Yes, that's right. 52 Kaizen events in 1 year. Man, was I tired. So you'll see their coffee makers at Circle K, AM, PM, Starbucks, Chick-fil-A, and so forth. The bottom group happens to be a thermoform company. I cannot say who they are. I have a non-disclosure, but they agreed to have their picture. And so you see a lot of team activity. And then the gentleman whose hand I'm shaking, that is Jace. And Jace is my poster child with regards to management. He actually has been very, very successful at sustaining the effort. And, he does the Waste Walk Wednesday religiously. He has a daily 7 a.m. Meeting where I go to the meetings and I stretch along with the team. What do you need today? What tools? Hey, you had this project. How's that going? I mean, this guy is amazing. And boy, you can see it. And what's really interesting about his process, you see the airplane in the background. He's actually an airplane repair depot for regional airlines. And so he has a high mixed model. No 2 days during the week are the same. So It took us about 3 years to figure out how to balance that workload. But we don't know if we're getting engine parts, landing gear, cabin stuff, bathrooms. We don't know. So, but every day we balance it, and every day we succeed. So, Chris, tell us about Isolocity.
Yeah, sure. Isolocity, we're a quality management software designed to automate compliance for companies who are looking to achieve ISO compliance. It can be 9001, 27001, 45001, etc. And also GMP as well, which you see more GMPs uh, set up and deployed in pharmaceutical, food, and other highly regulated or organizations that are regulated by the FDA or Health Canada, for example. Recently, we've received a bunch of nice awards here that are on display. So I guess our clients like us and have wonderful things to say about us. But Isolocity, we've been in business for 8 years now, and we are deployed in 20 different countries and across multiple different industries. And we're excited to be part of this conversation today.
That's terrific. That's terrific. Well, it's an honor to have you on board. So let's get started with today's agenda. Today's agenda, we're going to take a look at lean principles and how they apply to the box, right? Because everybody thinks, oh, this Toyota stuff, it's just for manufacturing. And it's not, folks. It's for transactions, it's for growing crops, it's for putting satellites up in the air. The most interesting project I ever worked on was leaning out the process for a police department on how to book a drunk. It used to take 3 hours to book that drunk. And as we took a look at these different ways, motion, transportation, waiting, inventory, overproduction, we identified those in the process, including 6 different forms. And we consolidated those forms into one form for the police officers. And then that dropped that booking process down to an hour and a half. And the idea is that utilizing Lean Six Sigma methodology, we are able to improve a process by 50, that's 50% or more. The theory being that any process not previously fixed before has at least 50% waste. Now, with regards to the Six Sigma is about eliminating variation. And everybody said, variation is the enemy. Ready? Variation is the enemy. Good job, guys. All right. And what that means is that we constantly have to sharpen our scissors, our axe, our saw, whatever it is, right? Because any process that is even perfect today, and in the term of Six Sigma, perfect is 99.9997%. That's Six Sigma. All right. So I'm working currently with a Mexican food manufacturer whose SQF score is at 99%. So we had the conversation the other day. If you don't sharpen your scissors, you're going to drop down to, 97.5. Well, how do you know? Because any process that we don't sharpen is going to deteriorate by 1.5 standard deviations. So we need to keep improving it. And we're not going to get to 99.9997 overnight, because the increments, that 0.1, that 0.2, that 0.3, okay, they're not tenth of a tenth, right? Tenth of a percentage. They could be like, 2,000 differential, right? 10,000 differential, depending on what that is. But the goal is to get it to 99.1, 99.2, 99.3, etc. And so the lean way of thinking takes a look at identifying those wastes, removing those wastes, removing variation through Six Sigma, but also adding value. And value is in the eyes of the customer. Mm-hmm. Value is in the eyes of the process. Value is in the eyes of the business. So we call that VOC, voice of the customer, VOP, voice of the process, voice of the business. And the value is what all those voices will pay us for. Non-value is anything that consumes raw materials, consumes time, consumes memory, but does not add value. The client is not paying us for that. And perfect example is if we're late in programming, a script of some sort, right? And so a new product introduction. And so we're delayed, a prototype. And then, so see, I'm using non-manufacturing examples so that we can say, oh yeah, wow, it does apply to us as well. So prototype. So we're delayed in that. And so what we do is now we have to pay overtime on it. So in project management, we call that crashing, right? We're going to hit the schedule and it's going to cost us 50,000, or if we throw more resource at it, it's going to cost us 100,000. So you want it faster, you got to pay more money, right? You see, so again, it raises our cost. Now, back in manufacturing or a product or what have not, if we don't get it right and we have to fix it, then, again, we're touching it. That keeps us from putting in new product that we have to do today because we're fixing the rework. Then we have to pay overtime. And then on top of that, we pay expedited freight. So cost. You see? So that's non-value. The client doesn't care. It costs you more to ship to me because, you're late. Too bad. You pay for it, right? Oh my God. So the lean thinking starts with making sure that our customers are getting value. And setting the standard means that we all know what those costs are. And the costs are, again, the classic 8 waste. You're looking at defects, your overproduction, waiting, non-utilized talent, transportation, inventory, motion back and forth, etc. Now, in the digital world, we're looking at things such as redundant data. Why do we need redundant data? Entering data that we're not going to use ever again, or entering data that goes to a dead end. The heck is that about? You see? So we want to make sure if we're entering data that this data is being useful. And then with a QMS system, Chris, how does good data entry or having lean data entry, how does that affect the output?
Absolutely. Well, there's a lot of good data in gives you excellent analytics. So the whole idea of reducing human input, reducing the margin of error of inputting data or double handling data, and also having it real time as well, which is important. So you have statistical process control monitoring on your shop floor, and your process is going out of spec, or your product is being measured out of spec, and you only realize that after the fact, or you realize that at the end of the day, then you might have produced a bunch of defective product. So having real-time data, especially for statistical process control for process or product monitoring, is very important because then it can trigger a notification to the quality manager, the quality tech, to come in and take corrective actions to bring that process back into parameters, so then you reduce the amount of waste that you create, which also is not very lean as well too. So a lot of great things you can do with an automated QMS, you can do with a measurement system like isolocity, all tied together with IoT sensors as well, to help reduce the amount of labor input, but also reduces the automation and increases the escalation for corrective action. So a lot of nice things we can do there. I think we're going to jump into some more examples as we go through this stuff.
There you go. That's excellent. And that real time is so important. We call that leading edge. I was at an organization the other day and I asked them how, the first quarter is going. And, they're looking at, well, we're still working on closing, Q4 of last year. And I'm like, are you kidding me? You see, so again, they're looking at data in the past, in the history. And so like Chris says, you don't want to find out at the end of the day, whoa, we didn't hit the mark, right? You want that real time data, just like a doctor wants that pulse in real time. And so this drives not only, the Internet of Things, but it drives a good solid digital QMS system, drives your policy, your manual. Tell us about some of the features that your product has with regards to, again, some of the written instructions, the kappa, the training, and so forth, Chris.
Absolutely. So thinking about your lean quality system, thinking about your QMS, SQF, it doesn't, whatever compliance system you're trying to be compliant to, and your initiatives with Lean Six Sigma. Everything drives from the top as far as setting that policy. So if you think about the hierarchy of your control documents in any system, you have your policy, which then sets the tone for how the manual is deployed, and the manual creates the guidance for the SOPs that then provide the step-by-step work instructions for what needs to happen. And then, of course, the recording of the data happens in records or forms. In Isolocity, we're able to create this hierarchical structure with your control documents and have everything electronic from a data input perspective. It all feeds up to give you that balanced scorecard or that dashboard effect that you want. And so with an electronic quality system like Isolocity, rather than having those big binders where you slap on the desk and you thumb through them and you look for that piece of paper that the rev control might not be correct on for that form, everything in our system is designed to error-proof user input. So you're getting clean data that is quick to escalate to the quality manager. And this is all driven through how we create that controlled structure of that pyramid of your compliance documentation. That all starts from the policy, which is guided through upper management and their vision of how the company should operate.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It becomes a beacon, a guiding light,
Yes.
and a centralized repository. So you're not looking in all different places with all different manuals or binders, right? Gives you
Right.
up to the date information at the touch of a button at finger's reach, right?
Mm-hmm.
So again, this addresses the waste of motion, poor layout, what have not. It doesn't matter. And
Yeah.
I worked a couple of years with even a medical clinic organization, and on one of the audits, it took us 5 minutes to find the defibrillator. Well, if you've got one of the patients having a heart attack, 5 minutes is a long time, isn't it? You
Yep.
see? So we
Yeah.
took that, we found it in the lab eventually, right? So there's the motion of having to go to the lab. So we brought it out and we actually put it on the wall in the hallway, right? And
Yeah.
so that makes a lot of sense. So having things in real time and at your fingertips makes a lot of sense. And the
And
other thing, go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, to add to that, and it's going back to sort of pop culture with the motion waste. For those who have seen the movie The Founder, it's about the beginning of McDonald's, right? And there's a scene in there where the original founders of McDonald's have their layout of the ideal restaurant in a parking lot, and the employees were going through the motions of getting the burgers and adding the cheese and doing all that stuff. And really,
Right.
that
Muscle
is,
memory.
yeah, that is an excellent uh, idea or an excellent initiative to look at with your workflow and how you have everything laid out, not just from an operation of how you push a product through production, but also how you input your data, right? So where are you going to input your data? Are you walking over to a terminal that's across the lab, or are you going through a binder to find out this information and inputting it that way? Having access to the data terminals that are close to the action reduces the motion waste, not just from moving around, but also the ability to not double handle data too. If you're putting it on a paper, then inputting it into a terminal later.
Absolutely. We call that having everything that you need at point of use.
Point of
All
use,
right.
yeah.
So if you need it, and actually there actually is a format that says if you use it right all the time, then it needs to be on you,
Yeah.
right? So whether it's in your pocket or a belt or an apron or what have not, if you use it once an hour, it should be within 1 meter.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
If you use it like throughout the day, no more than 10 feet. So again, if your location is not organized that way, then those are some guidelines from you. And again, to repeat that, use it
Mm-hmm.
constantly, should be on you. That's your point of use. Use it once an hour within 1 meter. So that's 3 feet. And then use it at least once a day within 10 feet. Okay. So those are the guidelines for that. All right. How about waiting? All right. And that is, waiting for reports, waiting for approval, waiting for whatever. And how does the digital QMS address the waiting game, Chris?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you're looking at something where you have a batch release process, perhaps, and you're waiting for all this batch documentation to be collaborated together, and then your QAP, as they call it in some industries, or the director of quality in others, they're the ones that are allowed to sign off and release that product for use if it's for
Yep.
patient or for medical or food purposes. If you're waiting on all that documentation before you can release the product, there's a lot of waste that you're creating, not only from waiting, but other wastes in lean principles. So the ability to press a button and have everything consolidate in one report out that allows the head of quality to then review everything to ensure that it's up to their standard and sign off. So that's one way of how an electronic quality management system can help
Absolutely.
collaborate
And
all applicable information. Yeah.
yep. And that nag feature, right? So, hey,
Hey,
Miss
you're up.
QAP, hey, Mr. QAP, you need to approve this, right?
Yeah.
Because, even at a restaurant, I was at a restaurant the other day, I'm waiting half an hour for my lunch, right? And I'm going, I bet they're batching. And as soon as I said that, sure enough, somebody from the kitchen brought out this tray with like the lunch for like 4 or 5 tables, you know,
Right.
because why? Oh, we don't want to keep walking back and forth, right? So the same thing with your quality manager. Well, I'll do it when I have time. I got to manage my schedule. Baloney, right? Customer demand says one piece flow, baby.
Yeah, one piece flow. And I'm actually guilty of that, and I hate to admit that, but I batch certain administrative activities here at
Uh-oh.
Isolasi. We log our
Uh-oh.
hours. And terrible at it, so I know guilty as charged.
I'm coming up there. We're gonna have a talk, Chris.
Yeah, we you need to, but we
All
have
right.
some employees that are really good at it. They log their hours after the event. So one piece flow of data handling. If you're batching this information together, you're actually picking it up twice, so you're double handling the data. And it's the same thing
Absolutely.
with waiting waste. If you are inputting information on a paper form or into a spreadsheet, and then you're putting it into another system, well, the person who wants to receive that information is now waiting for that. So then you're losing the real time advantage of reacting to that information if it's not to specification.
Absolutely. So let me talk out of the other side of my mouth, because I know that some of our viewers are maybe in industries where, they do have batch manufacturing.
Right.
So let's say a bakery, right?
Mhm.
You got to bake a batch of bread, right? So you got to figure out, though, how long that bread takes. If your customer wants one loaf a minute, then you need an oven that has at least, the capacity for 60 loaves, right? Now you amortize that, and that gives you, an average of one a minute.
Yeah.
Now, at one place, La Brea Bakery, one of the things that we did there was it took an hour for the bread to cool. So we installed elevators, 2 of them, right? And so since it was an hour to cool, guess what? Half an hour up, half an hour down. And so that became the buffer for that batch. And that gave us one piece flow. So at the end
Mhm.
of that, we had actually people packaging. They didn't know that bread had been there in an hour. You see?
Yeah.
Now the same concept, but now for crops, for lettuce. Okay. So it takes 60 days to grow lettuce, but you got to harvest it and you got to pack it every day. So we
Mhm.
created a 60-day line, so that every day, right, there was lettuce that was picked, that was planted 60 days ago, so that we can have one piece flow, you see?
Mhm.
And so batch can work if you then balance the time out. Okay. So
Right.
examples might be poor design, batching, a poor system of
Mhm.
management, and the waiting to batch. And we talked about that already. Now, cross training becomes very important too. And also that
Mhm.
QAP needs to have a number two. So if they're on
Yes.
vacation, they're out sick or whatever, oh, we got to wait because there's nobody authorized. Baby. We need to cross train, and always, always have. We should never be hostage to somebody's not here, right?
Right. Also, visual management too, having task lists that are visually appeasing. So you have that visual management. You come into your system, tells you where you need to go, hyperlinked, so you're not fumbling around and figuring out where you need to go. The system's telling you what you need to do. You click on it, and you approve your document. Also, having work instructions at point of use as well is important. So an operator comes in, you train quickly. They can view the visual instructions as well, and whether it be through tick charts as well, having all this data automatically inputted. The one thing I want to also bring up, I know we're sort of spitballing a bit here about one piece flow. There's an interesting exercise that people can do with their friends, and it's that envelope exercise, right? And if you really want to see the power of how quickly one piece flow can improve production with a group of friends, if you're bored, get an envelope and some paper, and one group of friends, what they'll do is they will fold the envelope, they'll fold the piece of paper twice and put it in the envelope, right?
Yeah.
They keep doing it. And then the other group of friends, they will fold once, put it down, pick up another piece of paper, fold again. And so they're doing that batch processing, right? And then
Right.
you'll see
Yeah.
that at the end of the 10 envelopes, the one piece flow uh, group should be ahead by at least 50% as far as completing the two folds and in the envelope, and away you go. So it's an interesting experiment, but it really demonstrates the power of one piece flow when it comes to lean principles.
Absolutely. You can also do that with airplanes. All right. So
Yes.
that
Yeah.
works. But this one
Yeah.
uses less paper. Actually, I like that, Chris.
All right.
All
All
right,
right.
good. So tell us about this screen. What does this highlight
All right.
for us?
Well, this kind of goes back to the waiting way. So just having everything at point of use. And so if I need to get trained, if I need my work instruction to be signed off on, I could push it out automatically to the applicable users, to the applicable workforce. So we're not waiting for people to come into the classroom. We're not waiting for me to sit in there and bore everyone with the new lessons. Everyone can see it instantly through notification, come into their dashboard, receive their training assignments, review the material, and sign off. And then I know I have competent and capable operators who are ready to go and who are up on the new revision.
Awesome. Awesome. So you got an updated skills matrix at a glance,
Yeah,
and it shows the level of competency for the employee.
that's right.
Love it. Love it. Love it. So what about transportation waste? Let's talk about that, materials and records and so forth. And again, the hyperlinks are a good idea, not only with this, but again, with some of your other documents, putting them on an Excel spreadsheet or your folders so that, again, instead of having to look through your folders, hyperlink them.
Right. Well, remote work too, right? Think about this. So we all, COVID-19 happened and we all figured out how to work from home. So why do I need to go to the office to complete my training record? Why do I need to go to the office to sign off on a batch release record, for example? Why do I
Exactly.
need to go to the office to complete my corrective action form? Why do I need to send an email with some attachments to my supplier when my quality management system can do that automatically? So the whole idea of reducing your carbon footprint, reducing the amount of motion or the transportation it takes to actually input, process, and output the data is also another important element that we can help companies improve on.
Excellent. And then examples, again, as you mentioned, the carbon footprint, traveling because of the documents and so forth. And there you go. That's a highlight of what you just said. So you ask
Yeah.
for it, right? It'll come.
Yeah. And some other solutions as well for IoT sensors. So having automated sensors in your environment, in your factory, in your lab, that's able to produce this information and have it inputted directly into your database. That's another way of reducing transportation. So I don't actually need to go view the information. The information is actually being given to me automatically through machine.
Absolutely. And then what about with regards to, let's go back on a higher level of
Sure.
machines, your OEE, overall equipment effectiveness. And which again, if you have large equipment at your organization,
Yeah.
your world-class OEE target is 85% or better. Your OPE, overall plant effectiveness, or all of your equipment at your plant should be at 90% or more. And then that's world-class. If it's anything less than 85%, you aren't fully utilizing that. So we have to take a look at availability and the reliability of machines, which gets us back to, again, the Internet of Things. So if you have some sort of cycle counter, right? How many hits is that machine? How many hours? So again, you have that report up, and does your QMS handle the OEE?
It can, yeah. You can configure workflows and data inputs that allow you to capture that information to report out on it. On top of that, too, triggering inspections, right? So the machine knows that the product has produced 100 and we produce one inspection every 100, or if it's whatever sampling plan you have as well, too. So that's another way of building in automation that allows you to inspect product when you need to, as well as
Yeah.
sign off on various documentation with the use of electronic signatures as well, rather than getting the pen out and signing off on stuff, having an electronic thumbprint.
Bingo. I love it. I love it.
Yeah,
So that's a form of poka-yoke, right? And
right.
poka-yoke, if you don't know, is called mistake avoidance. We don't allow the operator to make a mistake because we have a process. Again,
Yeah,
they put their thumb, we know it's that operator, it verifies it, there's a signature, boom, real time.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. And tell us about this screen here with the data
Right.
input sensors. And again, that's
Yeah. This is just further emphasizing what we just spoke about as far as data traceability, electronic signatures, just having everything more automated, embracing electronic QMSs to reduce transportation waste.
okay. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. And then what about inventory? Tell us about that.
Right. So inventory waste is producing too much data, right? So having multiple systems, duplication or competing systems that are producing similar or the same data and then having to collaborate it together. So this is where you're actually maybe producing too much data and looking at it a way to value stream map, not just your production process. Whenever we talk about value stream map, we always think about production process, but we actually don't think about our data processes, right? So are we producing too much data? Is there too much data? Are we putting too much strain on our on our systems. We're putting too much strain on our users to input the necessary data. So really looking at ways to reducing data inputs and only making sure we get the right data that we need and not producing too much data. So that's
Absolutely. And value stream map traditionally take a look at information flow,
yeah,
transformation flow, and time. But
yeah,
again, if we then add, an expanded information of that, or maybe we do spaghetti diagrams,
yeah,
right? So that we can take a look at
yeah,
how does information flow, how do people flow, how do parts flow,
right.
and you do a different color for those, and then you look and you see, are they all traveling together, or are they all going different directions
Yeah.
eventually? And so that you can see that, right at a glance.
Unnecessary emails is another one, right? So
Absolutely.
there's lots of emails that get sent that probably don't need to be sent. And just as a simple idea of how you can think about inventory waste from a data perspective, because we all contribute to it. We just don't know that we're doing it.
And make sure, folks, that if you don't have to carbon others, it's not about CYA, it's about communication. All
Yeah.
right. And really, if you get a bunch of people, even three people, that's a factor of 9, right?
Mm.
And you don't want that. So if you don't have to CC those people, don't just CC the person that you need to deal with.
And that's where we get into having inbuilt notifications in your quality system, right? So only the necessary people are notified, only the necessary notifications are escalated to the right people. So streamlines your communication to your entire company, but also streamlines the communication to your supply chain when there's issues that they need to be followed up on. So this is sort of coming into how we reduce inventory waste with information and data, is that we have automated, streamlined approaches for escalation and communications within the platform itself.
Oh, very good. Very. Can I give you a tip
Yes,
based
please.
on that? This is a very technical tip. You ready for it?
I'm ready.
Why say boo boo when boo will do?
Um, that's a great tip. Yeah,
Right?
I like
Why
it.
say boo boo when boo will do? So again,
Right,
folks, keep it short and simple. Right? Use the KISS method.
right. That's right. Yeah, and this is just further emphasizing some screenshots on how escalation can happen with inbuilt communications.
Now, on the escalation, tell us about different alarms depending on
Mm.
the different escalation levels.
Right. So it depends on the module itself, for example. So it could be if it's an equipment module that something needs maintaining or calibrating, then those individual users will be notified that they're up to do something with that asset. If it's an inspection that's out of spec or has failed, then that escalation can then go to the quality manager. Receiving inspection of raw materials can then trigger a notification to the quality inspector to then come in and then do their task. So when goods are received on the dock, we don't need to pick up the phone. We don't need to send an email. We don't need to tell someone. The system just says, "Hey, you're up. You got to go to the back and take a look at it." So these types of notification escalations are prevalent in isolocity, along with training, which is obviously a big one. So you update a work instruction, you update a manual or a work method or an SOP. Having the ability to translate that out to the entire organization, to all the applicable employees, that hey, you need to read this part of this the new SOP. Take this skill testing question to make sure that you actually read the SOP and sign off on it as well. So there's some nice things that we do there that really condense the amount of time that it takes to communicate key data points.
Absolutely. And for audits, right, we can just press one button and we can prove that we have had the training. We can prove
Yeah.
that, the attendance, the capability of the folks. And boy, it sure makes auditing a whole lot easier, doesn't it?
Well, that's the idea. The audit becomes more about a cup of coffee in the boardroom, which auditors will still go into the shop floor or the lab or the facility. Let's be honest, that's still going to happen. But you can drive and dictate a lot of the message through your electronic quality system to the auditor in the boardroom, and then
Yeah.
the shop floor walk around is more of a see.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is
It's funny you say that. I have an example of a gentleman that I actually certified as a green belt back around 8 or 10 years ago. And boy, he took it to heart and he digitized the whole office. So when the government came to audit him, they're like, well, where's the notebook? Because they've been used to notebooks before, right? He says, we don't need them anymore. He
Mhm.
says, but we require stuff in writing. He says, I know. He says, so you tell me what files you want to see. And he pulls out his
Yes.
phone And they're going, you can get it off your phone? He says, yeah. So what files do you want? They said, oh, all right, well, we'll play. Give us this one, and this one. And he goes, boop, 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 boop. He says, okay, it's printing right now. He says, take a coffee break and whatever, right?
Right.
So about 12 noon, the auditor comes into his room very sheepishly, and he says to him, I'm done. He says, well, is that good or what? He says, well, I've never done this early. He says, can you give me 3 more? He says, they expect me here all day. So
Oh no. Yeah. Well, at
well,
that point, you should tell the auditor to leave. You don't want the auditor sticking around. But
no, right? Yeah. It's like it's called the IRS factor, right?
right,
So
that's
right,
it.
you only give them what they ask for.
Right. And
So
what we have here with overproduction and overprocessing, very similar themes to the inventory, and there is a tendency to do too much, to create more records when you don't necessarily need to, right? When people think of compliance and they think of getting through an audit, they think they need more documentation, they need more data, they need more proof. But if they have properly laid out instruments or forms that guide the users or guide the employees to fill out the key data points that are only necessary and meet the need of the standard, then this is sort of a way where you can also reduce overproduction and overprocessing of data as well.
excellent. So let's say that the auditor has some findings. Tell us about the CAPA function.
Right. Well, so with isolocity, you can have multiple different types of corrective action. So you can have a corrective action that's based off of an audit, be a customer, it could be a regulatory audit or a complaint as well. We also have supplier corrective actions that communicate through our supplier quality portal to the supplier itself and letting them know that the corrective action has been issued and this is where they need to go to view the data, and they can upload their own data and respond directly back into the CAPA form through isolocity, which is really nice. So this is where you're taking out, we talk about overprocessing and overproduction. It's a great example where if you have an issue, typically back in the day, and people still do it, you take a picture, you write this report on Excel or Word or whatever it may be. Then you also now have to send an email. So you're handling all this information.
Yep.
Well, with isolocity, you could just go with a tablet, take a picture, write the information on the report itself, press submit. The supplier is then notified. They can then respond back to you in the system itself with their objective evidence. So there's some ideas there of how we can help as well. With isolocity corrective action form, it's based off of the 8D out of the box, but you can adjust it. We have fishbone and 5Y root cause analysis built into it as well.
Oh, that's terrific. That supplier portal is so important because, again, it eliminates having to have a person to call the supplier and set up the profile and so forth. Because, again, we just give them the link. They set up their own profile. There's interaction right away. Plus there's the connection right away, and we're not relying on emails. We're actually relying on real-time information and transactions, right?
And think about supplier quality certificates, right? So every supplier quality manager has a roster of suppliers who are deemed critical and need to be ISO, GMP, et cetera, SQF. And they also need to maintain an active certificate for those suppliers. But the system tracks those certificates for the companies and then prompts the supplier when their certificate's coming close to expiration. So reducing all of that stress, reducing all of that work and spreadsheets and things like that all happens through isolocity. Hey, supplier ABC, your certificate's expiring in 3 months. Your certificate's expiring in 2 months. In 1 month, please click here to upload your new certificate.
Oh, that's terrific. So we, through a QMS, digital QMS, are now adding value to our suppliers that maybe are paper-based.
That's correct. We're making their processes more lean.
Absolutely.
Or leaner, however you want to.
Yeah. A long time ago, I got a consulting job with Hughes Aircraft. Everybody knows Hughes Aircraft. And they assigned me to work with 4 of their worst suppliers. And they gave them a year to go lean. Otherwise, they were going to lose their contract. And boy, I tell you what, that was really interesting. And 3 of them responded very well. The 4th one just thumbed their nose at Hughes. And Hughes, at the end of the year, said, hey, we warned you. We were serious. You're out of here. But again, that's a way to partner with folks because now you're extending that lean, right? Toyota talks about extending lean even all the way to the driveway, right? with their cars. and that's what we're looking at there. All right, so here's some example of some waste. Again, mistake proofing it. Make sure that raw materials are there when you need them. Receiving inspection of the materials. How about AQL, Chris?
Yeah. Yeah, so advanced quality planning, or if you have an AQS standard that you're following for sampling as well, and that kind of goes back into what we were speaking about earlier, where you're getting prompted for inspections based on your sampling plan, which
Bingo.
reduces the human error and ensures that you're getting all the data points you need to meet your AQL. Absolutely,
And the sampling can be set up to the different levels.
that's correct. Yes.
Oh
Yeah.
man, that's
Yeah.
really
Yeah, you can have a sampling inspection. You can have a percentage. You can also create a percentage that you can allow for a certain percentage to be defective and not have to quarantine the whole lot.
man, that sure beats the old inspector's rule. Remember that device, right?
Oh
You
yeah,
slid in a little window and gave you the level, and then you have to turn it over and okay, how many do I,
yeah.
reject? How many do I accept? Oh
Oh,
my God. Yeah.
I'm not doing that anymore. No.
Right.
Yeah. So, and again, this is just more so kind of feeding on that value stream mapping. Are you overproducing data? Do you only getting what you necessarily need, and not just producing junk that's non-value added?
Exactly. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
Standardized data. Again, making sure
Yeah.
that you have not only good but excellent document practices that are
Yes.
auditable, they're at the point of use, easy to find. And boy, I tell you what, that sure creates flow. And it's all about flow. And in this case, we're looking at information flow.
Yeah, yeah, and this is going to also feed into a little bit of the last bit of waste that we're going to talk about, which is the defect waste. And when we look at defect waste from an electronic system, you're looking at bad data. So you're creating data that's not correct, or you're not getting the answers you need, and that kind of feeds into the idea of good documentation practices. And that's why you have systems that error-proof the input, form design that error-proof what you want your users or employees to fill out. So this is what you're specifically asking for, and there's no questions. They can't write in different answers. They can't pick a different field. This is telling them these are their options. This is what they need to put in, and here's a comments box if necessary.
And that is really important because we have a lot of folks that maybe aren't as functionally literate as we would like them to be. And in addition to that, especially your town, you take a look at being such a diverse town up in
Yes.
Toronto, 42% of the people in Toronto are from somewhere else and speak a third language
Yeah.
other than English and French.
Yeah. It's
Right.
incredible.
So again, by having those standardized responses makes it easier for the people, to respond. And also it lowers their stress level because if they know they don't have to reinvent the wheel or get embarrassed, right? They just go A, B, or C.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why it's also important to have a system that can translate the SOP. So Isolocity has a built-in translation toolkit for standard operating procedures. So if I'm someone that doesn't speak English fluently and I want to read it in Spanish, or I want to read it in Portuguese, or it has that ability to do that for you so that I can read that SOP in a language that I'm more comfortable with.
That's true. How many languages does it accommodate?
Well, it's a Microsoft plugin, so it's as many as Microsoft publishes, and I think there's a couple hundred there. So
Holy cow. That's amazing. That's amazing. All right, good. So overprocessing, again, refers to a component of the process that is unnecessary.
yeah,
So again, we go back to the old why, say boo boo when boo will do.
right,
And if we can do it, again, we could improve the process so that every step of the process is of value, then that creates value on the output.
right, yeah. It's the same sort of thing. Why put 3 coats of paint when 2 will do, right? So
Yeah.
and I think we're sort of talking a little bit more about this as well, where we reducing paper, you're reducing time when it takes to get people trained, reduce the amount of data handling, having a more streamlined approach for inputting data, having integrated systems as well. So if you have an ecosystem of technology with an ERP and a QMS, and sometimes you'll get a LIMS software as well for the labs. Do you want to have those technologies integrated that allow you to have seamless interactions between those two, so you're not processing multiple data sets, you're not processing the same data set across different systems as well. So there's other things as well that are important to think about when you're selecting your tech stack. Do they all play together? Can my QMS integrate with my ERP? Is it capable with open APIs as well?
Absolutely. And that directly relates to one of the wastes that we saw way back at the beginning of the hour, and that was redundant data that is really not necessary.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Just producing data just to produce data, and the more data you produce that's not value added, the more at risk you're putting yourself in an audit situation, because the more you have to convey, the more questions the auditor can ask.
Funny how that works.
Yeah, and this is going through that scenario we've already painted as well, with the ability to push out notifications instantly to applicable work groups through training for new SOPs or revised SOPs, electronic sign off. So really trying to bring 6 clicks down to 2 or even 1, and having all that information funneled correctly. And that's just a screenshot of what you would do when you're pushing out training.
Okay, great. So defects refer to product or record deviation. And as we've seen up to this point, again, with, again, good data in, you're going to get good data out.
Yeah.
With the Poka-Yoka features and so forth, that just makes a lot of sense with regards to making sure that we are getting the right data and the operators are queried to make sure that they're giving the right response and then they're not varying from that.
That's right. And to the example you had earlier in the presentation, as far as if you use it every minute, every hour, it's on you. Once a day, it's 10 meters from you, for example. The same goes true with your quality data, right? If you're required to input data regularly, you want to be able to input that data real time, so you're not remembering what it was 5 minutes ago. Because if you're doing that multiple times a day, you're going to start confusing your answers, right? So that also feeds into this with form design and Poka-Yoke, the form. So it's what you want it to be, and there's no questions asked. And there's one common issue that we see a lot with life sciences companies, where if they're still on the paper-based solution, this is why it's important to have an electronic system, is how do you write the date code, right? Everyone has a different way of writing the date code. Is it
Yep.
0, 1, 10, 24? What is that? Is that right? So, or you're going to say January 10th, 2024, or is it 10, 1, 24? And that's an example where a lot of people get tripped up when they're writing in date codes, and having a system that's going to automate that for you reduces that issue. And I kid you not, I know that sounds silly, but it's a legitimate concern that plagues a lot of companies.
It is a legitimate concern, the same as the time, and also telling time. I was working with Dave and Buster's in their kitchens for several years, and one of the things that we found out was that employees could not tell time on an analog clock. So we installed digital clocks in each of the kitchens, and that brought the kitchens to the time, exactly on time. It was amazing.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great example. Yeah. Okay, and this again, this is going into where waste can be. If you're having issues with your data systems, then you're more likely to release poor product that can lead to a recall or lead to mass defects. And so here's an example where poor documentation or form design can lead to issues where individuals will be releasing product that may not be suitable for release.
Okay, excellent.
Okay, and again, this kind of digs into the Poka-Yoke a little bit more, in the layout of data inputs and the automation of utilizing IoT and sensors as well, with documentation practices to reduce defective waste. And if you're producing data, make sure it's good data the first time, and you're not double handling it, you're not reworking it, you're not reproducing it, and this is all going to help improve and streamline your operations in a more of a lean capacity.
And remember that in the cost of poor quality, the first level is prevention. So this can help you with that prevention. Now,
Yes.
the next level is inspection, because again, if we can't prevent it, we have to inspect it, obviously.
Yeah.
So remember that the inspection level is actually considered a waste in the Toyota production system. And then the next level would be internal failures. So we somebody misses something. And remember also, different people have different eyes. I've got older eyes than the younger person, or maybe I'm more firm, right?
Yeah.
More strict on my inspection than maybe somebody else who's more lenient, right? So they let some things slide. right? So then we have what we call internal failures. And if we don't have a final inspection area that catches those internal failures, then they're going to get to the fourth level, which are external
Mhm.
failures. And those external failures we're seeing with Boeing doors and bolts right now, you see? So that's the cost of poor quality. And, hopefully it's not life threatening. But again, we go to prevention, inspection, first level escapes, and then external escapes. We do not want those external escapes.
Mhm. Okay, I think this is we're coming to an end here, Carlos. And I guess some of the key takeaways that we would like to convey to the team and to the group here, that one piece flow data input, and again, going to that paper airplane example, or the envelope with the piece of paper. It's a fun little exercise to see how long it will take you utilizing one piece flow versus batch production. But as Carlos mentioned, batch production does have a place when it makes sense. And the most expensive element of any operation is changeover. So if you want to reduce changeover time as well, and
Yep. Yep.
pre-operational cleaning, so there's important elements to consider there. Integration with technology, implementing 5S and 6S methodology with your data, also with your equipment. Increase data input centers so your users aren't or your employees aren't wandering around and getting lost by the water cooler when they should be maybe putting in critical, timely, quality data as well. Cloud-based solutions also allow for remote work, which is also important, so you can reduce your carbon footprint. You keep things moving real time as well. Poke yoke your process with excellent documentation practices, so you're not leaving chance out there. You're taking away all risks and all opportunities to have the data inputted incorrectly, and you're making sure the data comes in clean in the way you like it. Visual management as well also helps users stay aligned with what you would like them to accomplish in a real-time manner, whether that be through some sort of dashboarding mechanism with your software, or even it could just be visual management in the shop floor or in the lab, identifying what is a defect and what isn't a defect. And if it's a defect, it looks like this, it goes in a bucket. So there's a constant reminder as well too, and ensuring that you have data integrity. So the data systems that you're using are built in a capacity where they are 21 CFR Part 11 compliant. So the data is clean, the data has been validated, and if something's been jigged or jogged in the data, then you know who exactly did it and when it happened, which is
Yep.
important because you want to be able to know, hey, that doesn't make sense. So who put that in
Right.
there? And then you
Yeah.
can figure out who it is.
Yeah.
And of
Very
course,
good. Very good.
more
But by the way, you guys are probably thinking, yeah, it's all well and good. These guys just want to sell us or whatever. And the answer is yes. We want to sell our goods and services to you, and we want to, be your partner.
yeah.
And again, can we afford it? Well, can you afford to not be without it? And you know what? Isolocity offers, a package as little as $159 a month. And Chris, tell us about that.
Yeah. So we have various different levels of users at Isolocity. We do have a freemium user that we call the employee level user, which is a great benefit to big or small companies. It allows you to connect your entire workforce into the CAPA process, into the document control process, into the training process. And so we have some companies who have thousands of these types of users on their platform who are benefiting from it. We also then have a mid-level user, which is more that quality inspector, that quality auditor, if you may. And then we have that full level user. So we have various levels of users that allow companies to adopt the system, and the total cost of ownership is quite low, and also allows them to scale up to connect the entire workforce across multiple sites across the world if they're that large as well too. I will say something quickly here. To contact us, the team at isolocity.com won't get you to us. I don't know why we put that there. It's an oversight
Uh-oh.
by us, and I apologize. info@isolocity.com, because team, if you email that, you won't be able to connect with us. So if you want to get a hold of us, it's info@isolocity.com, or that number. But yeah, as Carlos mentioned, you can get into it as cheaply as $159 a month for your full level user, and you can also scale up with that free level user and mid level user as you add more required people to input the data.
Very good. Very good. You can also contact us since we're a partner, and we'll put you in contact with Chris. And then with us, same thing. We have different levels of offering. Sometimes people bring us in for executive coaching. Sometimes they bring us in just for Kaizen events. What I really like is I love a company and here again, I can't say who they were, but it's a German conglomerate, about $300 billion a year that booked us in the year 2000, and they gave us a roadmap for the next 20 years, actually. So we worked with them from 2000 to 2020, and we knew in 2018 to what we were going to do, it was amazing. And so again, everything from policy deployment to putting together a steering committee to training the folks to again, one medical company recently ran 300 of their employees, including the doctors, through the One Piece Flow simulation. We have the Vision Web game for collaboration and team building. And, you can bring that over to your strategic meetings, or you can bring that over to your executive retreats. So, one size does not fit all, and we know, and we've been practicing for almost 3 decades here. We're not going anywhere. We want to be your partner also. We want to thank you for joining us today. We hope you found this of value. We hope that you will tell others about it. Chris, any last minute words?
Yeah, there was a couple of comments that came in near the end here, and we'll just quickly address those, Carlos.
Perfect. Yes, I see those.
So AI. So yeah, Isolocity, we have deployed some AI from an onboarding perspective. It's designed in a way to bring in the current workflows that you have, and then have those workflows developed and mapped in Isolocity for you. So rather than manually developing your own workflows in Isolocity and having it deployed, we, with our customer success team, can utilize our AI instrument that we have, take that workflow, feed it into that toolkit, and then it has it all mapped out in the way that you would like it to have in Isolocity. You can start using Isolocity from day one. So it becomes more of a true turnkey solution when it comes to onboarding our system. And that's sort of the first iteration that we're doing with AI at Isolocity, and that will continue to grow and provide more end user support as we go. And then Justin, thank you for that question. Yes, so we do have...
Can you read the question so that the audience knows what the question is, please?
So the question that Justin has to do with failed inspections on PM. Are you able to see what materials were used for the equipment from the last inspection of the failed activity? And yes, so we do have full traceability in Isolocity as far as spare parts list, what lot or serial numbers were utilized during that maintenance and calibration. That traceability also carries through when it comes to batch production, or it could be sanitation activities as well, as far as what cleaning solutions you use. So yes, we have full traceability on spare parts usage, raw material usage, and also any spare cleaning solutions as well, and the other ways you can utilize that traceability to benefit your compliance requirements with Isolocity. Those are my last thoughts, Carlos, and I just wanted to address those comments. I just saw them come in. So
excellent. No, we appreciate the feedback, and so that means that you guys found it of value and are engaged through asking questions. So if you have any more questions, feel free to email us, call us, or see us on LinkedIn. Chris, hey, thanks again, man. This was a lot of fun. We have to do it again.
Yeah, we should. Thanks, Carlos. I really appreciate it, and thanks everyone for showing up today.
My pleasure. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Thank you for joining us.
Cheers.
Cheers.